Okay, we're live.
Thank you. We'll start the meeting. Brad, are you okay for starting now? Just want to be sure. Didn't want to catch you off guard. Not a problem. Good morning, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Just a note, we two of our committee members, Steve Ferguson and Nathan Townend, are absent today. So we have the other four members that are here. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes. So the Palace meeting, February the 12th, 2026. We have a moved by Brian, seconded by Sam. Any errors or omissions? None noted, all in favor? That motion's carried. Thank you. Approval of the agenda for today. Moved by Sam, seconded by Brad. Any additions anyone wants to it? Nope. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. None noted. Delegations and petitions. The first item on here is the Morningstar mission. Kevin Alkenbreck and Pam is coming on board. She's going to provide an introduction for Kevin. Go ahead, Pam.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. So as you will recall, at the last committee meeting, the committee members had requested that we invite organizations that we provide funding to come and speak to the committee members to share how they're using that funding and the impact that it is having, as well as any other services that they provide for the broader community. So I'm pleased to introduce you to Kevin Alkenbreck, who is the Executive Director of Morningstar Mission, who also operates the Warming Center in the winter for us. And with that, Kevin, I will turn it over.
All right, good morning, everybody. So I'm actually really grateful to be able to speak directly to you and have an opportunity to sort of share all the things that are happening at Morningstar. Certainly, we find ourselves on the front lines, and sometimes, for better or worse, sometimes the face of homelessness a little bit, even though that is not something that we were ever in pursuit of. So I think that probably the best way to kind of share about Morningstar is to assume that people don't know everything that is going on here and kind of work through the Warming Center. I have some stats and then kind of work through the programs that we have. And I should be able to do all of that in about 10 minutes. And then we'll sort of see where the conversation goes from there. And so the Warming Center operates the funding that we receive from Palace for the Warming Center pays for our staffing, and staffing, the Warming Center itself runs for 6 months. So it opened on November 1st, 2025 and goes through until the end of this month, April 30th. So what we do is we provide service to those that we deem to be homeless. And so we have a little bit of rigor around that, including working with our homeless committee, working with street outreach, trying to understand from landlords, if we can, if a person is really unhoused. And then once we make that decision, then they are eligible, we intake them, and then they are eligible for as long as they follow the rules. And if we become aware that they are housed, then they have 2 weeks to finish up at the Warming Center. It's quite often a dramatic change for people to go from the Warming Center to a place, because even if you get a bedroom or you get an apartment, suddenly the door closes and every night you're by yourself. So it's quite an adjustment to not have access to social, some of the food services we provide, and also just really coping with being on your own. However, we can't be sustainable if we don't focus on those that are actually unhoused. So Morningstar uses that funding to keep 2 or 3 staff on at all times. We operate from 5:30 p.m. to 10:30 a.m. Monday to Friday. That allows for unhoused individuals to make their way to Pier 17. So we try to build our programming around that. But there is no Pier 17, and a lot of things are closed on the weekend. So we operate 23 hours on the weekends. On holidays, we're 23 hours. And then between Christmas and New Year's, we operate 23 hours a day. So some stats around the warming center. We have seen so far this year 130, let me see here, 106, so 134 unique homeless individuals have come through in almost 6 months. On average, we have 17 rest pods, okay? We average 18 people staying in a rest pod and serving 8 additional people that don't take a rest pod over the night and just come in off the street for some food or social or connecting to services. So the most that we would see in one night, I think we saw 35. Okay, so you can imagine that's quite a thing to have 35. Breakfast program will begin on May 1st and run through till October 31st. That's from 8:15 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. That'll run 7 days a week. And actually, we got some funding from the United Way for that, and so didn't come to Pellis for that funding. So who comes and supports us? So AMHS Street Outreach Program, which is also funded by Pellis, they come daily. The community paramedics, they're coming weekly. And public health comes and does vaccinations and sexual health. And yeah, so they're coming routinely as well. Some interesting stats around the warming center. So of those 134 people, we consider 95 of those as being from Napanee, and feeling like they have been in and around Napanee for around 3 years. Okay. Then we look at sort of Amherst View area. We've got 3 coming from there, from the east, sort of. We've got 5 of those come from Picton, and sort of Northbrook area, 3 more. Okay, so that means that in the Pellis region, of the 134, 106 are from that region. Okay, so that's about almost 80% of the people that we serve are from the Pellis region. Out of town, 5 are, said they were from Belleville, 9 from Kingston, 11 from Deseronto. So I know that Deseronto, even though they're only 10 minutes away, is not in the Pellis area. And then we have 3 that we call other, which would be from beyond our sort of local region. And so we have seen these numbers have actually risen in terms of the concentration of those that would be from Napanee. Okay. So I think, like, there's probably lots more I could say about the work. I mean, we have 26 cameras all around the building, inside and out, trying to keep an eye on things, trying to work with police if there's any investigations for any reason, or anybody, or we need to check on anything. So I think it's important to know that Morningstar only owns 6 feet around its whole building. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. Probably lots of questions will come out of what I just said. So I think the other thing to think about with Morningstar is only about 30% of the people that we deal with are homeless. 70% of the clientele of Morningstar would be housed, is really the way to just differentiate. Most of what we do is for low-income people. So since September of 2022, so for the last, I would say, 3.5 years, we have intaked 1,200 households, and we intake people to access the warming center, to use our food bank, and to take part in our takeout meal program. So It's interesting to note also, Morningstar sees on average 20 new households intake every month. And that's a combination of people who are unhoused and people who are housed. So we do sit-down meals twice a week. We do a Wednesday lunch, and then we do a Saturday supper. We do takeout meals Monday and Friday. Clothing goes out on racks for people, and then they have access to fresh foods from Second Harvest, which is really no frills. Lionhearts provides fresh food for us as well, fruits and vegetables, and we get breads from Salvation Army, which I think ultimately come from Walmart. So we do mobile meals across the county, and we have over the years received funding from Pellis for this, and also for our loyalist friends, they also have put some money into the Odessa part of it. So mobile meals, we send about 120 meals every week to Northbrook, but 80 to Deserano, 160 to Westdale Park Church across from the hospital, 120 go to Odessa Free Methodist. Tamworth is probably seeing 10 to 20 a week. Bath Food Bank, 20. Newburgh gets about 10 a week. NDSS, we send hot and fresh ready meals to them every Tuesday, 100 meals. So we're sending about 600 meals out across the county from our commercial kitchen. And that's all stuff that we raise money for, and provide that. So men's and women's breakfast monthly. So second Saturday is women's breakfast. Third Saturday is men's breakfast. Open to anybody. That does have a Christian flavor to it. Food bank is monthly for people. So anyone can access our food bank as long as they've been intaked, and they have monthly access. We do an income tax program. We probably do about 800 tax returns a year, and anybody from anywhere can have their taxes done. They just have to be low income, and that is through the CVITP program through Canada Revenue. And we just recruit volunteers that do those taxes for us and e-file them for people. We try to provide community connections to agencies, supports, whatever we can to help people. We have a Saturday service that we do. We are a Christian organization, so we do provide a little Saturday service. And we do a furniture share program. The furniture share program, yeah, it's been going for 3 or 4 years. The town provides us a space that we can use on Conservation Park. And then Morningstar is all really run by volunteers. So although we have 5 sort of core staff, I have about 150 active volunteers, and virtually everything except for the warming center is pretty well run by volunteers. Okay, and so and most of our services don't cost anything, and yeah, and we provide a lot of access. So we work with Gateway. They're coming weekly to help with our Wednesday lunch. NDSS School to Community comes twice a week. Students come get their hours, and anybody who's needing court-ordered community service. We work a lot with Salvation Army, because Kingston, to help people get their hours. And then sometimes defense lawyers reach out to us to see if they can get their clients to get their hours. And so, yeah, so anyway, so that's kind of an overview of Morningstar to try to give you a flavor of all the things that are happening here. So maybe I'll just leave it at that and see what kind of questions people have.
Great. Thank you very much, Kevin. Yeah, it's a pretty extensive list of what's going on. It's hard to just capture that all in sort of take it in 10 minutes even. So I'll turn it over to members of our committee. Do folks have questions? Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, you can hear me okay, can you?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, Kevin, what you're doing is it's a phenomenal thing that we need in this community for sure. It's great work. You see, I spend a lot of time going down in that area. I just had a couple of questions. I'm constantly getting hammered by residents and whatnot. There seems to be an awful large drug usage in and around the area, and the neighbors are really getting, more and more fed up. It's getting worse and worse instead of better and better. And I'm just wondering, is there anything you're trying to do to curb that or prevent some of that? Like, to the point where, I mean, they're doing bongs right on the picnic table you've got set out there. The police are there quite a bit. I've got lots of video coverage where the police are there a lot. It just seems to be getting worse instead of better. And I realize your numbers are up, and you've only got so much to work with. But that's one question. I'd really like to hear what your answer is for trying to help the neighbors out, because your neighbors are starting to get really upset, and I'm afraid for the well-being of some of your clients, because some of the neighbors they're getting pretty intense there. So I just want to hear your inputs on that, please.
Sure. Okay. So a couple things. So I would say that one of the things that Morningstar does, so anytime that this can be a double-edged sword. So what we do is we have no drug use on premises. So we provide, so what that means is, so listen, I live in the real world, so that just because we say that there's no drug use on premises doesn't mean there isn't drug use on premises. But what that means is that clients are restricted immediately, so no questions asked. So we tell staff that if we even suspect that people are using on property, they are immediately restricted for 3 days. So that's the first thing that I would say. The second thing that I would say is that it gets complicated because, again, we only have 6 feet around the building. We have moved to a third staff from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Now, some of that time we have to cover breaks. So that does allow us to go outside. So if we see things on the cameras, we can go outside now. So, I mean, the main thing in that is that what I try to say to people is, unfortunately, there is a certain amount of individuals that do engage in drug use. And so the challenge that we find is that, and I mean, and there are things in the long term that we are trying to do to sort of help in this situation. But we are, I mean, I don't have great, I mean, the problem is that this goes along with it, and we sort of work, and part of the reason that OPP are there is because we work with them, we call them, we ask for help if we need it. I know the neighbors call. Sometimes the individuals that attend here call. And so I recognize that it is that the neighbors are on the front lines. And so that's some of the things that I would say that we try to do around drug use. The challenge is that this is much bigger than Morningstar.
Oh, 100%. It is much bigger. It's the neighbors call the police. The police, they half the time don't show up because the people don't have enough on them to make it worth their while. And unless there's a fight or whatever, they don't seem to be interested in showing up, which is a policing issue as far as I'm concerned. But you had mentioned you only own 6 feet around your building. So if they're on that picnic table with their drug paraphernalia, that's not on your property. Is that correct?
That is, yeah. So many people become restricted immediately if we observe anything.
So I see you've got some gravel being delivered there today. Is that on your property or somebody else's property?
No, that's my, so when I say 6 feet around, what I mean is, so that in front of, so where we have building and to the road, that's our property. So, and then across, so on the West Street side, obviously that's driveway and road frontage, but then behind our building is only 6 feet. And then we basically border on the side of the building directly onto the Crane properry.
Okay, so where the picnic table is, that is your property.
That's our property.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, right. I try to also police that area, even though it's not our property. We try to ask people not to be there. And if we observe drug use or anything there, that we consider that our property, even though it's not.
Okay. And that's that. And I also get a lot of hammering because there's a lot of tax dollars that are fed into the Morning Star, and this is another question that I've had brought forward to me as well. Because I think Pellis gives you what, around 290,000 a year, is that correct? And you say that you use that for staffing. Now, how many staff members would you have on that?
Well, so it takes about 20 staff total, but that's just to staff it. So we would only have on hand 2 or 3 staff, 17 hours a day, Monday to Friday, then 23 hours on the weekend and holidays. And then, so that's what it takes to do that. And then we have a manager.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because this is taxpayers' dollars, and unfortunately, we're all responsible for the taxpayers. So,
Okay.
there's that. You mentioned you have cameras outside. That's great. This is off question. Do you have any that point to the back, maybe where the fishermen were taking the fish and gutting the fish on the shoreline down there?
So one of the challenges that we face with this, so I was approached to look for that, but I have
Oh,
no
were you?
footage.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no
Okay.
footage because our cameras, in order for me to be able to have any kind of timeline to be able to go back, if my 26 cameras or whatever I have were running 24 hours a day, I would only have 2 days of history. So we try to run motion
Okay.
just so that we can have 14 days.
Yeah.
to go
Yeah,
back.
I didn't think they probably wouldn't reach down to the water anyways, but I know the ministry would really like some footage if they could get it.
I know.
So Tuesday night at 10:30 would have been ideal timing to look there. But yeah, okay. So that's nothing to do with what you're doing. That's a whole different issue. But okay, what other questions do I have? So you mentioned you have full-time staff. You've got 5. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so then the coldest night of the year, this was another question that got to me. So Belleville runs the Grace Shelter Inn,
Yep.
and they were looking to raise roughly 65,000.
Mhm.
And Kingston, the Lionhearts in Kingston, they were looking for 65,000 to raise for the coldest night of the year. Coburg, for their Hope and Light Urban Outreach, was looking for 30,000. Peterborough, street level advocacy program in Peterborough, looking for 40,000, and we got the Morning Star Mission. We were looking for 100 grand. I'm just wondering, like, how these numbers line up to the bigger centers as to what you need. Like, I get a lot of questions, Kevin, and I'm sorry to hammer you and put you on the spot like this, but
Go ahead.
how does that all add up? That the Morning Star here in Napanee needs so much more than these other places.
Well, I suppose the number one reason would be that that probably 6 minutes of my 10-minute presentation went into all the things that Morningstar does. And so the coldest night of the year funds go to sort of fund everything that we do, right? And so Morningstar puts, like, we have to put overhead into the building. It pays for the food that we need to get, the containers that we need to get, the staff that we have. It allows us to do all the things that we do, including support the warming center.
Okay.
I would say that's the main reason.
Yep. No, that's all I'm asking for, is just some answers when people are asking me, because I have no idea where the money goes. I know. Would it be possible sometime to have you bring your books in for Pellis to go over just to account for everything? Is that possible?
Well, so Morningstar is so this is the first year that that we have. So we've just, because of our growth, we paid to have an actual audit. So we are now fully audited from an external company. And so, yeah, I mean, listen, Morningstar has nothing to hide. So
Yep,
we're a good partner with Pellis. And so I would certainly take to the board of directors if that was a request that Pellis had.
No, that would be awesome. And yeah, I don't know, back to the neighborhood. It's a shame to see the neighborhood going that way. I grew up down there. I was born on Water Street and Water and Robinson Street there. And I moved up to Mill Street and spent the rest of my life on Mill Street. And I drive down that area now. It's just such a shame. But I mean, what you're doing a good thing, Kevin. You really are. It's just, I just don't know how we can improve on making it better for the neighbors in the area. Um, it's the same as the transitional housing. We've got to, try to curb where we put transitional housing so we don't end up with blocks and chunks of them all and concentrated in one area. Because I mean, between the Morningstar Mission, which is doing a great job, you've also got the Queen Elizabeth down there, and there's nobody doing any kind of a job down there. It's just a kind of a free for all Wild West down there by times too. So anyways, I appreciate you answering my questions and taking the time to come here this morning.
Of course. So,
Sorry,
I was just going to say,
Brad. Yeah.
maybe just make one comment as well. So one of the things that makes Morningstar unique is that, so we have a few privacy issues, obviously, around the warming center in terms of who can come in and that sort of thing, right? But everything else that Morningstar does is their doors are open. So I really invite people to come, have a meal with us, come, drop in, have a tour, see for yourself. See for yourself what's going on, right? See for yourself what the property looks like. Don't announce that you're coming, just come. We have a Wednesday lunch, we have a Saturday supper. I mean, one of the things that people like about us is that we are transparent and we are open, right? And that our services are for whoever's willing to come. People think that it's easy to come to Morningstar, but it's not easy. It's not. There is a lot of guilt and shame around accessing services. And so I always challenge people who maybe think that Morningstar isn't for them and say, well, this is a community, and whatever it takes to come through that door on a Wednesday or a Saturday, or any time in terms of what people might be thinking about you taking a meal or whatever, is the same thing that the people we think should be there. They face those same things, worrying about what people think, about who might be there, about am I taking from somebody else? That is true. That's a guilt and shame and worry is something that we all have. So I just put that out there for people.
Thanks. Okay, Brad, you go ahead.
Thanks, Tony. And Kevin, thanks for this. There's a lot of information here. And yeah, it sounds like you're doing good work, and you are. So, but I have a couple of questions along the same line. So for the, I guess the first comment and question is, you made reference that a lot of your work is for the Pellis area, but the Pellis area it also includes Prince Edward County, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's American in Prince Edward County. So, I guess what I want to ask is, how do people in Prince Edward County know about the service that you're providing? So, you take the warming center and then some of the other things that you have listed there, that maybe we don't have here. So, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to figure out how do we, and there could be things that's happening.
Okay, so there's a couple things to say about that. Okay, so a couple things to say about it. So one would be that one of the ways that we think about Morningstar is we think that our moral responsibility is to those who can get to us and those who need us the most. And so that in itself becomes a self-limiting factor, right? So what does that mean from Prince Edward County? It would mean, well, if a person could get to us, they could access our services. But very often, the transportation itself means they can't get to us. And so, and then as far as the idea that the warming center, who is it for? Well, so Morningstar, I've been offered to be to have interviews with CBC Radio and to talk about the warming center. And I say, well, I don't want to do that. And they said, well, why would you not want to have reach across? You might be able to get support from across the province. And I said, well, I don't need to advertise the warming center. Like, the warming center is for those that are in our community that have nowhere to go. And so I guess that the thing is that, we're barely sustainable as we are right now with the funding that we have, with the limited space that we have, with the neighbor relations that we have, with the community relations that we have, with the sustainability of Morningstar as a whole. So I'm, of course, interested in servicing people who are struggling. There's no doubt about that. But that's a bigger question in terms of, is Morningstar Mission's Warming Center, is it part of the solution for Prince Edward County? And so that's probably a Pellis question.
Yeah, okay. Can I follow up, please?
Sure.
So, but, and I understand what you're saying, and it's for low-income people. But I guess, I believe these numbers for the warming center was 95 were from Napanee, then you have 3 from Amherstview, 5 from Picton, 5 from Northbrook, 9 from Kingston, 11 Deserado. So I'm just wondering, how do those people get to the warming centers? Like, you know,
Quinte Detention Center could be a way. So Quinte Detention Center. So they could be transient and they get into trouble and the police bring people to us. That's quite a way that people do. A lot of people come to us from detention. We get people that come from the hospital. And sometimes people come out of the hospital, but they're from Napanee. So I've had people come right from KGH right to the warming center because they did have a place to stay. They got sick. They were staying on a couch in Napanee, and then they end up at the warming center. So the police are going to go where there is support in their area. So I think it's important to also sort of recognize that, it is our policy in this area because we don't have a shelter. It is our policy to send everyone to Kingston and Belleville. Right? That is our Lennox and Addington's policy. So I think that is, it's not written anywhere, but by virtue of not having a shelter, that means that really what we're saying is that when the warming center closes, we are offering to send anybody who would be willing to go to Kingston or Belleville to the shelter. And so I think that we should just remember that Kingston and Belleville are in a much bigger crisis than we are. Even if they have more resources, their situation is much more dire than us. Their violent crimes much more dire than ours. And so I think we just have to keep in mind that we have to actually do our part, and it's very difficult. It's horrendous. Nobody likes looking at homelessness. I see it all the time. I know exactly what the neighbors are saying. I understand their concern. However, I'm not sure. Like, this is a bigger systemic community issue. So yeah, and we really do try to clamp down. We really do, we're not trying to attract people. That's a myth. So if anybody says to you, people are coming in by the busload, that is so not true. In fact, what people need to understand is that's what we would do. What actually we would do is if somebody came to our community from somewhere else, we would try to send them back. Right. And so I think the reality is that that's a myth that needs to be extinguished because people stay where they know. The reason that the people that we have here have a connection to Napanee. Very few people hear about Napanee. That's not a thing. Maybe in jail, they might make friends with somebody, and maybe the odd person comes to Napanee because they know somebody who's homeless. There's not a lot. You can see by the numbers each year, the people from Napanee, that number climbs because people stay where they have connections. That's where they don't just up and leave unless, they do sometimes, but that's not what's driving our numbers for sure.
One quick follow-up. So, and I think we all agree that this is a bigger problem, and nobody's trying to say it's not. So we're all in the same boat. We all agree that this is a huge problem that everybody's trying to fix. And I guess, the point that we're trying to get at here is, we're giving funding, and it is taxpayers' dollars for this area.
Yep.
And everybody else has the same opportunity to get that funding. But what we're trying to do is make sure that in our area, the people are looked after that need it in our area too, with the funding that we provide, right? That's kind of
Okay.
what we're looking at. I just want to make sure that, we're on the same page. We're not trying to bury you here. We're just trying to
Sure.
make sure that we're getting the best for our people here.
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure. And so I think that one of the things to keep in mind is that everyone has a different definition of who our people is. And so I always remind people that, the day that you move from one address to the other, that day that you arrive at your new address, you would never say that I am from wherever you came from. And from that day forward, you would then be from wherever that new address is. And the challenge that homeless people have is that they are outside of that definition. And so then anyone can say that, can make their own definition of who's ours and who's from outside. And so that's a big challenge, right? In terms of who is ours. And so so like I don't want to be the one who is like seen as the big defender of the homeless, right? So I recognize the challenge that we're all in. I sat at the Pellis meeting where the answer to most questions was the province and the federal government. And so we all know that until significant dollars come, we are going to, as a community, have to think outside the box of how we're actually going to deal with life on the ground. And so we're looking at, listen, like, I don't want this spread far and wide, but we know that Morningstar can't support the warming center at 58 Water Street for much longer. So we are actively looking at working with the town, working with Pellis, right, to understand where we can go that will actually allow people to access our services, that will neutralize a little bit of the community frustration. I can't sort of change drug use. I mean, one of the reasons that in Out of the Cold, no one knows anything about it is because they have such a high threshold for people to come and use their services that you end up with 500 people that have no access to In Out of the Cold. And so Morningstar is trying to straddle that, where we don't want to be the hub, but we don't want to be In Out of the Cold either, because all that would happen is that there would just be 100 people that would have no access to our services. And so we're trying to straddle that. We're trying to fit with the gap that we see in our community. And unfortunately, the people that we see at Morningstar are really coming from all the other societal challenges. So what we're seeing is the breakdown of the family. We're seeing, hospital wait times. It's hard, right? People don't have doctors. We're seeing, challenges with CAS. We're seeing, we have family court, right? We have services in this community. We see seniors at a high rate accessing. At one time over the winter, we had 5 people over the age of 65 here, right? So we're seeing it's a catch-all, right? So people are hitting the streets and then they're being dropped off by, cabs, but they're all local, right? They're all people coming from our hospital. They're coming from Queen Detention Center. They're coming from KGH. KGH isn't just sending people, they're sending people who on their intake form at the hospital is from Napanee. So that's where they're sending them. And so that's what we see. And so it's a big challenge. And we know that mental health, most of the issues that people have around homelessness actually are from people who have out of control mental health. It's actually less dramatic. It's dramatic to see drug use. And there is drug-induced psychosis, but many of the people that are really a big challenge in our community actually don't have drug-induced psychosis. They have just regular psychosis. And so that's a big challenge. It's a big challenge.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad. Yes, Brian?
Sorry, thank you, Kevin. You brought up one thing there. So I see a lot of people coming down, like, from the 401 and the bus stop area. A lot of new homeless people, 2 or 3 a week. Do you see them coming? They've got their bags in their hand and their suitcase. So do these people get sent back where they come from then? Is that what you're saying?
Well, so I think that my numbers bear out that they maybe aren't as it may be that they're actually not coming from the 401. It may be that they are encamped somewhere north of the 401, and that's what you're seeing. And that if you are seeing people coming from the 401, they're not ending up at the warming center. That would be my comment without knowing.
Yeah, no, I just see them, you know, constantly. And you tell they're new homeless people to town because I've never seen them around, and my wife gets excited because I do my homeless check every night. I drive around all the different areas and check and make sure everybody's kind of okay, because it's very concerning in our municipality, you know, for what we do have. So I don't do the good work you obviously do. I mean, you're more up on it than I am, but I do my homeless checks every morning, every night, and I see new people coming into town. So, but I don't know where they go to. You're right. So, all right, appreciate everything you do, Kevin. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from committee members? No. We could have lots of comments about the great things that are going on. Kevin, certainly much appreciated, and members of the committee have expressed that appreciation for what goes on. And challenges that are, I guess, so huge and complex that we all collectively struggle to figure out what to do about it. Money is one thing, but that's not the root cause of what's going on. So
if our federal government would forget this damn train and put that $90 billion towards its people,
yes,
things would be done.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry for interrupting.
I hear what you're saying, but we have some societal issues if we don't work through, it's not going to improve. Anyway, okay, so that was a really good discussion. Much appreciated. I couldn't make notes fast enough, so yeah, it gives us some great oversight. Certainly, my view, well worth it to have you here today, Kevin. So thank you very much. If there are no other questions from the committee, then we will have a motion to receive Kevin's presentation, a discussion, moved by Brian, seconded by Sam. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And Scott, did you want to say anything? You came on board?
I just wanted to say thank you to Kevin.
Okay.
And Kevin did say one answer was a Pellis answer. And to Councillor Nyman, just wondering about how people know. So you have a fairly healthy community safety and well-being plan that's activated. I think you have 6 action teams that have I think collectively over 130 members. All 130 members on those action teams would either know how to refer to Morningstar mission, or would know somebody on their team that would know how. And you know, anybody who's wondering how to refer to Morningstar could go through our social services office in Picton to make sure people can access that.
Thanks, Scott. In reminder too, Kevin said his door is open for anyone who wants to go there and just visit the place or ask questions or see what's going on or whatever they wish.
Sure.
Scott?
I will add something. Kevin talked about not just being a Napanee service. We have unhoused people in Northbrook that regularly have food insecurity issues. And when they're eating, they're often eating meals prepared at the Morningstar Mission kitchen that end up in Northbrook, and they end up accessing those, and they're able to eat because of the efforts of Kelvin and his crew. So just want to recognize that.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, and certainly I've been aware of the meals program and how it comes up to the far north too. So yeah, it's people do appreciate it.
That is like the CNOY money. When people ask like, where does that CNOY money go, right? That like people say, well, how do you do 50,000 meals a year? Well, that's how, right? And they're not just going to Napanee, right? We are trying to give grace to the communities around us who, and it's not, we can't just always say that people have to get to us. Although that we try to do that in terms of like, really, what lines do we draw? It's like, well, we try to go to Deserano, we try to go to Northbrook and sort of everywhere in between, right? And and Odessa and Bath and sort of that area, right? Then we sort of consider that to be our catchment area, right? And so, however, if people can get to us, right, we try to be open to those who need us, right? And so we don't really get too concerned with what a person has in their bank account, what a person has, because life is much more difficult than that. And so if a person is willing to come and ask for help, then we are willing to try to help them. But there's only so much we can do in terms of outreach and taking services to people. And so that meal program is something that we have came out of COVID, and we have been able to sustain by fundraisers like Coldest Night of the Year.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Take care,
Awesome.
Kevin.
Thank you. Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.
Thank you. So we will move on to section 2, items for consideration. The first one is the CWE LCC Directed Growth Targets update. And Liam, are you going to provide? Yes. Go ahead,
Good morning,
Liam.
everyone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, and through your chair to the rest of the committee. The report before you just outlines that on March 19th, communication was received from the ministry regarding space recalibration under the CWELC directed growth targets. As a result of the recalibration, TELUS was one of 22 CMSMs to receive additional spaces. So our allocation increased from our 2024 baseline of 1,045 to 12,024 spaces by the end of 2026. Representing an additional 179 spaces to be created in 2025 and 2026. So these spaces have already been planned and approved and are scheduled to be created by the end of 2026. I will note that given the fluid nature of home childcare data reporting, TELUS will continue to monitor and adjust as necessary to ensure that the overall space target is met. I would be happy to answer any questions that committee may have.
A comment. Certainly, this is some good news. I know we've been sort of battling this for a little while, and we're hopeful that it will come through with these corrections. So thank you. Sam, you go ahead.
Thanks, Tony. And I agree. We have been really looking into increasing our amount of daycare spaces that we've needed in the area. I know both of our communities are starting to hit walls because of it. I do notice, though, that the only mention of current space allocation was to the Boys and Girls Club in Loyalist, which I'm not saying isn't a good spot, but I am wondering how many spaces of this increase are going to be going to PEC, as we do have operators ready to go for space allotments.
So in total, the 179 total spaces is kind of the 25 and 26. So the mention of Boys and Girls Club was the successful recipient of the expression of interest, which was highlighted in the report. But of those 179 spaces, 57 of those total spaces are committed to Prince Edward County's projects of the Base 31 and then also home childcare. And then the remaining 122 are related to approved projects that we had approved further to the ministry in Lennox and Addington across the Boys and Girls Club, and then the J.J. O'Neill school age one as well, and then home childcare, Yorker daycare expansion there.
Okay. Pam, you came on board. Did you?
Yeah, I just wanted.
Yeah, go ahead, Pam.
Oh, sorry, through you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify that the 179 is not new spaces. So when we got the increase, it was just for the number of spaces that we were short because of the inaccurate data that was being used. So it's just in alignment with our original plan. So there isn't actually net new spaces per se. So those 179 were already committed, as Liam talked about, with Base 31 and the home child care spaces that we had committed. But certainly if we don't, if at any time as we're going along, somebody isn't able to meet their target, then that could open up some new opportunities. But I just wanted to clarify, it's not necessary. It isn't 179 new spaces that we received.
Okay.
Just thank you for
Sam.
clarification.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Oh, sorry. You don't see that. I'm moving my screen around here and I lost you all for a minute. If there's no other questions, then we have a recommendation that we receive the report. Moved by Brian, seconded by Brad. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Thanks, Liam and Pam. Move on to item 2, homeless enumeration. And that's Scott. We'll turn that over to you.
Great. Yes, hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. You have that report in front of you. I'll just give you a couple of highlights. There's actually kind of one paragraph that kind of, for me, sums up some of the challenges dealing with unhoused people, in that, 65% of people that we talk, sorry, I should give you the numbers. I know we ended up chatting to 130 unhoused people. 95 were from the Lennox and Addington area, and 35 were from Prince Edward County. But the one paragraph, so 65% of the people we talked to either had or have had a substance abuse issue. 72% either have or had a mental health issue. Um, just those numbers are staggering, especially when you throw in that when a person becomes unhoused, about 40% of people, when they become unhoused, have an acquired brain injury. If you fast forward 4 years down the road, if they've been living on the street, that's about 80%. So when you wonder, I'll talk in very layman's terms, like what's wrong with these people and why can't they figure their lives out? It's because they have addiction issues, mental health issues, and acquired brain injuries where there's um, when you're talking to folks and saying, here's what you need to do, and they say yes, and then the next day they can't remember what they need to do. It's because they have an acquired brain injury, which just makes them even more challenging. A lot of people that we talk to who are unhoused would qualify for benefits through Ontario Disability and Support Program. We just aren't able to get them to the assessments. We set up the assessments. They can't make it because, a calendar and a clock isn't part of their world. But sorry, I don't make the paint that picture. I do just want to clarify a few things. When we do our enumerations, in no way do we ever think we've counted every unhoused person. It's generally accepted that whatever number you get in your enumeration, you probably have 3 or 4 times that number. For example, we're probably never going to catch a couple split up at the start of April, and one of those people is staying at their brother's place living on the couch. They probably are never going to get counted in that count. And that's okay. We recognize that. But I think it's, we knew that homelessness, the incidence of homelessness had increased, and that's kind of what we saw. I think some of the trends where there's more addicted people, more people with mental health issues, I think part of that speaks to our reach and reaching out. We're working with our partners at Street Outreach, at Morning Star Mission, and places like that. Or you're on mute, Tony.
Take that off. Do you have a question, Brian?
Yes,
Yeah,
I did,
right.
for Scott. Scott, when you did this, it seems like your numbers of 130 individuals line up almost perfectly with what Kevin was saying from the mission. But my question, I guess, with this count, were you able to get the people living in their cars and vehicles? Say, like there's a gentleman out at the Flying J that's been out there for a couple of years, living out of his truck, and he bounces around various locations in Napanee. How are you able to get those people, or are they included in these numbers?
Yeah, that's a great question, because they are counted in in this, and we did reach out to them. Some of those folks, we know they're there. We know they're there every morning. We knocked on their window and said, "Hi, would you like to do this?" And they said, "Oh no, I'm not homeless. I'm just here for breakfast," or whatever. But some of them did talk to us, and one of the the number's the number, and it's good to know. One of my I hate to say I have a favorite thing about enumeration of unhoused people, but it's making sure people know what services there are. So some of those folks staying in their vehicles at the Flying J and also, in the parking lots at some parks and such, we were able to chat with and let them know, like, hey, if you need fuel to stay warm in your vehicle, we may be able to help you out. If you need food, we can connect you to food services, let alone connecting them to all kinds of other support services. So some did reach out and connect, and some just are more aware. So if they hit a crisis point, they know how to reach out.
Yeah, because I know, like, and Tony can confirm this. I mean, there's a lot of homeless people in the north that you don't even know they're homeless because you can't get to them. Like our hunting camp in Vanacker, for instance, there's a gentleman, we call him Uncle Bob. He's there for 51 weeks of the year. I don't know where he goes during the week we're there, but nothing's ever damaged, nothing's ever touched. It's just, we know if we go in on the four-wheeler or side by side that you'll expect to see somebody in your camp, and we call him Uncle Bob. So and that's not the only camp. I mean, there's a lot of camps like that. So it's not a fun job you have, for sure. It's a very difficult one to paint the numbers. So
Yeah, I know I'm talking further in the agenda about our town hall meetings, but at our town hall meeting in Northbrook, we heard about people like discovering unhoused people or some tents or people just living rough along the trail along the hydro line, kind of near Flinton and whatnot, and just people out on walks down their favorite trail, and then they see a tent from an unhoused person over there. So it definitely out Napanee has like our highest percentage of visibly homeless people. And you're exactly right, Brian, in that when you get not just to the north, but even like more rural Prince Edward County, homelessness looks like a trailer or somebody's hunting camp where, hey, there's a roof and a wood stove, but it's an outhouse, no water, no electricity, but it's a dry, warm place for them to stay, but
yeah, like, I
definitely
mean,
not optimal.
if, like, even driving to the south, you'll see a lot of trailers on people's property. The slides have been out all winter long. The power's been hooked up all winter long. You're pretty sure somebody's living there. So
Yeah, and it's interesting, this the people at the Flying J parking lot. You would think they'd be way in the back, hidden, but they actually prefer to stay up near the restaurant where there's light and where there's safety in numbers.
yes, right.
Which is, a whole other problem, right? But
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Yes, so any other, yes, Sam, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Great report, Scott. Always love to get some new information from you. I was curious, out of the 35 respondents in the county, and actually I'll increase it to all of the LNA respondents too, how many were new? Do you know? And does this change the by list names, the by list counts for March, now that you might have reached out to new people or were able to hear from new people?
Yeah, so actually, I don't know how many were new. I don't know if that's even a question we asked, but I can definitely look into that, and I can actually talk to our caseworkers in our Picton office to kind of get a handle on that. And I can let you know, and I can certainly let other committee members know. I'll find that out and get back to you. Sorry, you had a second question there.
Yeah, I do. My other one is these are great metrics. I was just really curious on, do you know the actual breakdowns between some of the numbers, like the ODSP individuals or the OW peoples, especially between Prince Edward and LNA? I think it would be really interesting to see even like the veterans count or the how many Indigenous people are in each county that
It-
are facing these numbers, because of the fact that it can help us plan for long-term housing and specific supports if we do have like the area divide.
Yeah, yes, a good comment. At our last enumeration, about 4% of unhoused people were Indigenous, and this time I think it was 19%. And Indigenous people represent about 4.4% of the people in the Pellis area. So that's definitely disturbing. One of the I guess positives from that is one of the members of our homelessness working group from our frontline group is, boy, and I hope none of them are listening because I'm going to not say the name, but it's Aguanada Services for Indigenous People. We have a few Indigenous people in our transitional housing program, and the support that Aguanada is able to provide is awesome. And they also they work with a number of people that we deal with. But yeah, there's some disturbing trends. Even the disturbing trend that I think it was 22% of unhoused people were in foster care, and we've known that that's that's a marker that increases your likelihood to be unemployed, to be unhoused or something. But are there things that we can do to improve that or make people aware of services? Definitely is a number like 22% of the unhoused people we talked to had been in foster care is significant. And it leads, points us in a direction of a place we can go where we can maybe improve outcomes.
Go
I
ahead.
have a follow-up here. Thank you. Yes, no, I 100% agree with like the importance of having those statistics, especially when you're looking at like foster care and individuals that have left the foster care system are more at risk for homelessness. But I guess specifically what I was asking for is what is the amount of individuals that like for each of the metrics that was Prince Edward County and LNA, because of the fact that if we have, like, just for example, like out of the foster care metric, if I think it's in percentage, but like say if 4 of the people on the list were Prince Edward, but if LNA had, say it was 20, just for easy numbers, 16 of the individuals, then LNA would know and LNA Council would know, okay, maybe there is things that we need to do to specifically support our youth. And we can say, you know what, not that we're doing better, but we can focus our divides potentially on maybe we have 8 out of 10 of the indigenous. So then we know, okay, then we can start like changing our support systems. I think that's the importance of having the divide in the metrics. So I'm just curious, will we be able to have that? Like, what is, like, we have rent is too high. Well, what is it, that barrier? What's the difference between LNA and Prince Edward County? What is it, the low income between LNA and Prince Edward County? Like, it's really good to have it in a group, but it's really hard when, I agree with Brian, like he has the Flying J, like, which can start doing their numbers differently. They, like, yes, we both have rural sections, but what are the difference between them? It's sometimes like, I really appreciate being an amalgamated group and I understand like the challenges with it, but sometimes it's hard when, every, as even we were talking about Morningstar earlier, every dollar counts right now. And I think Councillor Calvert really like pointed that out. And we're just trying to do the best. So just split up, if there is the possibility of us splitting up those metrics between our different municipalities, I think we can really help and catch those people that are starting to fall through the cracks, or at least help us start working with our agencies a little bit more closely.
Yeah, definitely a possibility between the increase in Indigenous unhoused people. It might be because of our relationship with Aguanada and that we're working with them, so they were able to interview a number. So we didn't, it wasn't just Pella staff completing the enumeration reports. We worked with all of our community partners, with Morningstar, with Aguanada, with the Community Health Center, with Addictions and Mental Health. So they also sort of reached out to their folks. But definitely, I would say, Councilor Branderhorst, that sort of maybe, the urban part of Napanee and kind of downtown Picton would be the 2 places where we see visibly unhoused people, and definitely not therefore everywhere else is rural, but everywhere else it tends to be more rural homelessness where it's hidden, where we had a fellow in Flinton who was unhoused and he was in a trailer and it was like down a trail, off a path and over here. Like it was to the average person driving down the road, they'd never know he was back there. And that tends to be how rural homelessness operates. It's way more hidden than, say, in a park like at Delhi Park or you know, uh, Confederation Park in Napanee, or even downtown Napanee, or even downtown Picton. If you go near the Tim Hortons on different parts of the day, there might be some people that kind of consume a parking space there and hang out, and that's their day. Which they're much easier to reach than, you heard about a person down a trail through a path and over here that may or may not be there when you get there to reach them. But we network with our outreach services. So I don't know if this is answering your question, but we have outreach services that have gone to Denby, that have gone to South Bay, and to try to find people that the community have identified as unhoused.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yes, sorry, just a quick follow-up. So is it possible to split the numbers in half? Or split the numbers between PEC and LNA?
Oh, sorry. Yes, certainly we can. And I can talk to Elaine Sweeney, who is our business analyst who oversaw this, and drill down some of those numbers and some of the details for sure.
Because, yes, thank you, Scott, because I think everyone split in half would be important. And I'm just curious, you did mention LNA is Indigenous, but I was wondering if Bay of Quinte Mohawks or Tyendinaga was also part of the conversation.
Yes, they were. And I think you heard Kevin earlier comment about the number of people from the Deserano area that have used his services, and definitely we see that influence as well.
Okay, just wanted to confirm. Thanks.
Great.
Thank you.
Brad, do you have a question? Not now? Okay. Kevin, Brian, do you?
No,
Yes,
I was muted. I was just agreeing with Sam. It would be nice to have it broke down by community, because when you're going back to your local council, it's easier to explain what's going on and how much of this is our responsibility, because we get it from our council too. So it's quite a world we're in.
Yeah.
So I do like that idea, Scott, if we can get it broke down a little deeper. But what you've done is absolutely amazing for these numbers. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So no further questions? Doesn't look like that. We have a draft motion here to receive the report. We have a mover. Sam, seconded by Brian. All in
Quick
favor?
question, Chair.
Yes.
Are we taking it as direction for the splitting of numbers, or would we like to have that added in the motion?
Good question. Maybe we should just include that in the motion. Let's do that. That's okay at the mover and a seconder? And that will, okay. Okay with that, Sam?
Yep.
Yes, we had a mover seconder. So they all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Scott, for that update and discussion. And item 3 is the housing and homeless plan update. We'll turn that over to you, Scott, again.
Yes, and sorry, I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on with my computer, in that it looks like, I'm at a cheap motel with a flashing sign behind me. Sorry about that, folks, if that's distracting. But yeah, I just want to bring people up to date. So we are, you can see that. Can you see that, Tony?
No,
Lighting up behind me. But anyway, in my dusty
we can see it, but
exercise equipment that hardly ever gets used.
Okay, so that's extra. So you're really not in a motel. Okay, I wasn't sure if that was exercise
I'm at
equipment
home.
or what that
Sorry,
was. Okay.
I'm not feeling well today. There's a series of colds that are cycling through my family, and I'm unfortunately on my second round. So sorry if I'm not as sharp as usual, or maybe Sam's laughing. She's never really seen me sharp. So okay. Anyway, so I just want to give a committee a progress report about our continuing development of our housing and homelessness plan and our housing needs assessment. We've now completed 7 town hall meetings, uh, wow, hopefully I can get all these. Wellington, Picton, Napanee, Amherst View, Odessa, Tamworth, and Northbrook. And although the opening presentation was similar at all of them, the discussions definitely were different and really informative. We had a variety of attendees and that we had elected officials at every meeting, which is very great and impressive. At our Napanee meeting, we had the entire council attend, which was fantastic. We had community members and we had staff. We had, interestingly, and it's funny because as this has developed throughout my career, there's now people from planning departments coming to meetings about housing and homelessness because they want to know how can we create affordable housing. 15 years ago, if you invited a planner to a housing and homelessness meeting, they would have been, why am I getting invited? Now they know and they see themselves as part of the solution and a necessary cog in that chain of events that need to happen to create more affordable housing and you know add some pressure relief to the affordable housing crisis. So anyway, I just wanted to bring people up to date with that. The next steps is those town hall meetings are going to inform our discussions with stakeholders. So those are people like that homelessness working group that I talked about, and other community agencies, lots of people from those community safety and well-being action teams and things like that. And if you look on the staff report, if somebody wasn't able to attend the town hall meetings, because it's kind of like, hey, it's this date from 6 to 8. If your kid had a hockey game, you're probably not there. Or your daughter had gymnastics or whatever, you're probably not there. So there's opportunities in two ways. There's a community survey and there's a link on the report where you can go and answer this survey. But there's also an email where somebody could answer the survey or somebody could have attended the town hall meeting and later next week they're watching the news and they see this cool thing that they think is being done out in, St. John, New Brunswick, and they say, hey, here's an idea that I think we could try in our area, and they can let us know about that. They can also, up until I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I know the date this is open to. I just can't think of it right now. So I think it's till the end of April that people can comment, maybe even until we have those stakeholder meetings, which are going to be mid-May, where people can comment and add their ideas to what we're developing and what we come up with.
Thank you, Scott. Are there any questions for Scott on this update? Go ahead, Sam. Then we'll go to you, Brian.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Scott. That's really exciting to hear that the community or that the town halls were well attended and that there was really good discussion at them. It's interesting that you're saying that all the different areas were had different needs and the discussion went in different in different ways, I guess, which is, I think it just shows on how complex the homelessness problem is and how every community is slightly different and needs slightly different needs. And I was just wondering if that going to be integrated into the report, like the assessment, the plan, the funding, and priorities, showing and kind of highlighting that discussion and the different needs for the various areas, not just Prince Edward and LNA, but specifically the different areas of each, such as like more rural, more urban areas, and the different breakdowns that they're hearing from the public and the support.
Yes, one of the products that we'll get out of the housing needs assessment is there will be sort of, here's the Pellis picture, here's LNA and Prince Edward County, but every member municipality, so Greater Napanee, Loyalist Township, Stone Mills, and Addington Highlands will have their own kind of separate chapter with ideas about what they can do. We're contacting different the various planning departments about land that could be available and all that stuff. So it'll have sort of, here's this chunk of property in Northbrook where you could develop, it's, 5 units or something like that. There'll be some of those ideas, but also there'll be ideas around community networking. One of so a few years ago, Pellis developed the homelessness action plan. And for the most part, it needs funding to be activated. But one of the key things in there was just improving coordination amongst all the community service providers. And I think we've done that really well in both communities. We have the Housing and Homelessness Action Team in Prince Edward County, and we have our homelessness working group, frontline group, and we actually have sort of like a leadership group in Lennox and Addington. And those have really I guess broaden their spectrum just from, it's not just Pellis doing this, it's Pellis and like Pellis and friends doing this and providing a whole continuum of care. When I think of like transitional housing in Napanee, where we've got people from street outreach, we've got people from Aguanada in those units working with our staff to provide the best services and hope for the best outcomes for those folks. But yeah, definitely, we're seeing regional differences. And part of that is because, being unhoused or having a homelessness or a housing crisis in some areas, and it's not that different, by the way, South Bay to Denby, we've got people living in rundown, moldy trailers that we become aware of some people because the snow load was too great. The roof of the trailer collapsed. And now this family's unhoused. And we discovered they've been there for 3 years. And it's like, wait, what's going on? So there's some parallels for sure, but there's definitely some differences too. And so I think in the report, you'll see the differences reflected in those chapters, but then for the member municipalities, but you'll see the overall breadth of what we're doing through the Pellis area. Sorry, hopefully that wasn't me rambling on too much.
No, that was great. Thanks,
and
Scott.
answered your question. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Brian, I believe you had a question?
No, it got answered. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, so we'll continue to see and be involved in this update as it occurs, as it progresses. What was the end date of it? I forgot, Scott. Could you remind me of the housing and homelessness plan when you're trying to have that thing finished?
Yeah, so we hope to, our plan is to send it. So with all of our housing and homelessness plans and updates, we've always had to get the approval from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And in the past, it's just kind of been like, oh, thanks for your report. It's approved. But they're actually requesting this year for us to give them 90 days to comment. And when they said, here's we want you to do a housing and homelessness plan. And, but remember, here's some things to keep in mind. In the past, it might be 5 or 6 things. This year, it was about 1.5 pages of points that they want us to remember. So we're making sure we consider those. So there's a feeling, and my understanding is the ministry will actually review these and maybe request changes. So our plan is to get our draft of the plan, housing and homelessness plan, into the ministry in June with, and hoping to come to the September committee meeting with the final plan. And right now, as we develop these two plans, the housing and homelessness plan and the housing needs assessment, it's looking like the housing needs assessment will either be a companion document or maybe even an appendice of the housing and homelessness plan because they're so closely connected. And I think by doing that, by connecting the two plans when we submit to the ministry, I think they'll be much more informed about the status of housing and homelessness and our plan moving forward. And our plan moving forward will include all continued, like right from unhoused people to developing new housing and including market housing. So it'll be fairly comprehensive.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Fritz, at the June meeting, I plan to give a further update about stakeholder meetings, just so people are informed, because you may hear from folks in the community about, hey, I hear this is going on or that's going on, and I just want to make sure committee members are as informed as they can be.
Great, thanks. Brian, do you have another question?
Yes, I did have another question pop up there. Yeah, I was actually, I know everybody said it was a good turnout for Napanee, but there was 9 people that weren't council or weren't committees. There was 9 people of the public. I just wonder, would people have a chance to go online and still do the survey and stuff? Will we get a numbers if that, or will we get any information if those numbers climb at all? Or because I was very disappointed. I thought, for the amount of homelessness we have in Napanee, I was definitely expecting a bigger turnout than that. So I didn't know that there's a way we'll get more information if other people went online afterwards, or what we can do there. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Councillor Calver. I was expecting more people as well, definitely at some of the events. And yeah, we'll be able to let you know that, we had whatever 100 surveys completed, and here's what we heard, and there'll be a summary of that for sure as part of the process.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any further questions for Scott? Don't see anyone anymore, so that we have a recommendation here to note and receive the report from Scott, moved by Brian, seconded by Sam. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, and thank you very much, Scott. Sure, we all look forward to seeing that report as it gets near completion. Item 4, transitional housing staffing models. This is an update here from Scott.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Fritz, your Chair Fritz. This will be brief in that I think at the last committee meeting or a couple of committee meetings ago, I brought forward a report about the sort of the cost involved to staff a transitional housing site 24 hours a day. And I think I provided a report at Lennox and Addington Council where they requested, hey, maybe could you look at something different from in between, 24 hours and what we're providing now. And in the report, I just want to clarify, I think I don't want people to think that I've talked about our current transitional housing model, and there's no formal staff times for people to be there. So it's not like from noon till 4 every day there's somebody there, but there's people there. So I wanted to add that up, and I know I calculate, kind of the cost for transitional housing. And I do want to acknowledge and recognize that we do spend about $100,000 on staffing costs to be there. And for comparison, I hear from people in the community, these unhoused people should be locked up. Well, locking them up costs about $490 a day. A addictions rehabilitation treatment program is about $200 to $600 a day. Our transitional housing, including our staff costs and subsidizing rent, is a little over $20 a day. And it works because of the staff that are there and the sort of that wraparound service. It's amazing that it works so well at $20 a day, but it's a much better deal than I ever thought it was. I never thought of breaking it down how much it costs per day, but yeah, that's what it is. So our plan is to talk to a few different groups that provide. There's a group in Kingston that provides transitional housing. They have a fully staffed house, and then they have a partially staffed house, and they, kind of more like our program where there's staff that go in and check it out. So I'm going to talk to them about how those programs work, their costs, and their success rates. And I'll be back at the June meeting. In all honesty, I'd hope to be at this meeting with those stats, but those town hall meetings and moving the housing and homelessness plan forward has kind of eaten up a few resources in the housing world at Pellis these days. So I'll have that for the June meeting or committee to discuss and consider.
Yes, thanks, Scott. Brian, go ahead.
Thank you. Another great report, Scott. I really do appreciate the work you guys do. Looking at that, you're getting roughly $21 a day. It's kind of kind of interesting when you think about it. That's $21 a day for 41 rooms in the program. They're not getting that much for the John M. Paris Center for all the people that are there, and we definitely don't get anywhere near that for the having the jail here in our municipality. So it was really neat to see a breakdown of that, of what it works out, and I realize it's not possible to have 24/7 staffing there, but I'm very happy with what you are doing as far as staffing. It's any little bit helps for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, Council Calvert, it is possible to have staffing there. It's just really
Wow.
expensive, and I don't know that we get the outcomes at it now becomes $115,000 per year per room versus $6,000 per year per room. And if we knew we were going to get fantastic outcomes, we might pursue that. But the difference in outcomes, it doesn't justify it yet. And I may discover a model around the province where somebody's doing something for 4 hours a day and they're able to, deal with people that are at a higher level of need and they're having good success. And that's my hope and desire from this exercise, is that I can discover some programs that are out there that are having great results.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any further questions for Scott? And we'll have an update at the next meeting. Don't see anymore. We have a recommendation, a staff recommendation here that the transitional hosting staffing model report presentation be noted and received. Moved by Sam, seconded by Brian. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll move on to item, well, I guess it's the last one. Matters for information, performance metrics, and Liam, you're going to provide an update. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Chair, I'd just like to briefly highlight that within the performance metrics, you will see some notes identifying funding streams and programs that are still undergoing the reconciliation process. So as a result, any associated financial data for those do remain tentative and is subject to change once the reconciliation is complete. And those, once it is finalized, those will be highlighted to committee as well. Additionally, you will note that within the Ontario Work section of the performance metrics, the 2025 and 2026 data did have to be separated into two charts. This change was made to align with the revised deliverables and data received from the ministry that we get for those Ontario Works metrics, as the information is reported on a year-to-date cumulative basis. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that committee may have.
Any questions for Liam? Sam, go ahead.
Hi, Liam. Thank you for the metrics. And I'm just wondering, it seems like now, like going over the metrics page, there's less breakdown than there was before, specifically between the Prince Edward and LNA numbers. Like early on is one big lump, which it would be nice to see the two different numbers, the housing services. COHB is one. The waiting list is not done by geography, which would be an interesting one to see the differences of geography once again, because I think, people who are on the waiting list in Prince Edward don't really want to go to LNA if that's where their job and work is. So I'm just wondering how much of these metrics can still get broken down further.
Yeah, through you, Chair, I can definitely continue to explore looking at the breakdown, and in some cases, a lot of the time, the data that we get, whether it's financials or things like that, is just reported to us in lump sums and things like that. Wait lists as well. We can try and find an exploration to see if there's a way to separate it. I know that we're continuing to work on that in order to make that implementation, to see if there is a way for us to do that. But it really does depend on the way that the data is presented to us, and then ensuring that is when we provide those breakdowns, that it's a reasonable and adheres to all of our privacy and data collection policies as well. So wherever possible, we do try and break it out, and where not possible, unfortunately, it just is the way that the data is presented to us and the resources that we have in order to collect the data and properly report it. Sometimes it isn't necessarily always possible for that breakdown to occur. but definitely we are committed to trying to provide as much breakdown as possible. And I can definitely do a more in-depth review to see if there's potentially anything that I've missed when we were creating these performance metrics last year. And if there's any exploration that I can do there. But again, if there's anything that I can't change just because of the way that the metrics are reported to us through the various softwares or various dashboards, then unfortunately it does have to remain within a lump sum. But we can always definitely try and explore and see what is possible if there's potentially something that I missed while creating this.
Okay. Any other questions? I have a comment, Liam, just a personal experience. I had a question a week ago from someone about the services, the social services provided and some information on it. It was a prospective new member, somebody who's going to run for council. So I went into the into your performance metrics, which have been there many times, but I had a look at it and I said, okay, well, I sent it to this person, but you can imagine it would overwhelm anyone because there is a pile of information in there. It's certainly changed so much in the last year or more. So anyway, yes, there's always additional things that we can do, and it's been very helpful in making all these changes. I know Sam has a very valid request as well, because you're always trying to see what's going on in our individual counties. But it's, I have to say for sure, from a personal experience, this is an excellent tool for people who have an interest and want to go in there and find out some information. It's extremely valuable, so thank you. Don't see any other questions. Then we have a recommendation here. So maybe we could have a motion on that recommendation and a request just for Liam to provide an update at the next meeting on any opportunities for splitting data up by county. Do we okay with that, Sam? Yep. We have moved by Sam, seconded by Brian. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Is there anything else anyone wants to bring up before we adjourn the meeting?
No, it was a very productive meeting.
A lot of discussion.
A lot of discussion.
Yes, which was good. That's why it's here. That's great. Thank you. Well, nothing else, then we have a motion to adjourn. Moved by Brad, seconded by Brian. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Right.
And Scott,
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Have a good
everyone.